So this video is going to take you from when the first video I made finished. So in my first video, I spoke about my journey to embracing Islam and how I was left in Hyde Park Corner after embracing Islam that day. People said to me, do you want to come to the mosque with us? And me saying, no, I definitely don't. It's all a bit too much for me. So if what I just said doesn't make sense to you, then go and check out that first video, I guess, and then come back to this one. So I remember that day seeing all of the brothers walking off into the distance, going to the mosque to pray. And I sat down in the park and I remember saying to myself, you know, this is the best thing that you've ever done in your life. I never imagined that it would happen that day. There was a million reasons why it shouldn't have happened that day. I was thinking of so many things that I'm still doing that I shouldn't be doing as a Muslim. I know I shouldn't be doing. But okay, I've done it. And I thought, this is amazing. Now remember, at that point, I had no real knowledge except the basics of Islam. But I didn't know anything about how do I study, how do I learn. And so after becoming a Muslim, of course, I had a mobile phone actually. I did have a mobile phone in those days. And I remember the brothers would call me and they'd try and encourage me to come out. And I was working at that time and I didn't feel confident enough to come out. And I think the biggest reason that stopped me from being around the Muslims in the early days was believing that I was not living the life of a good Muslim. And because I wasn't living a healthy life, I was still smoking, drinking, I was doing everything. So because I was doing those things, I felt really bad, to be around the Muslims. I had this idea, the Muslims, they're so clean, they're pure, they're living such a righteous life, and look at what I'm doing. I'm still immersed in all kinds of nonsense that I shouldn't be doing. So I'd see people from time to time, and I remember, they'd ask me, how you doing? And I'd say like, yeah, great, everything's really good. And it wasn't good at all. I didn't really understand my faith at all. But it didn't mean that I didn't want to learn. The problem is, especially being a new Muslim, a long time ago, 28 years ago, there was nothing in London where you could really go and get authentic information about Islam. Very, very difficult to find anything. Now, the few people that I did meet in the very early days after embracing Islam, I didn't know at that time, but they were from an organization called the Nation of Islam. So the Nation of Islam, most people are familiar with it. They're a group, they're not Muslims, but they have the name Islam in their name. They're very confused people for the most part. Anyway, I met some people, they started talking to me about it. I said, it makes a lot of sense. I'd always been very, very interested in black history. I was certainly, very influenced from about 16 years old by hip hop, which had a lot of Islamic references to it. So it was very easy for me looking back, I don't know how I did, but it was very easy for me to take on board what people from the Nation of Islam were saying. And don't forget, I didn't know that the Nation of Islam was any different from Islam. I was like, okay, Islam, I've embraced Islam. These guys are the Nation of Islam. Okay, that must be Islam. Why? Because there was nothing else available. There was nobody else saying to me, no, brother, this is not Islam, this is Islam. No, there was nothing. Now, there were people who were saying to me, let's meet up. Let's go to the mosque together. But I wasn't taking advantage of those situations, And to be honest, I was quite busy. And, I guess just as a new Muslim, it's just very, very overwhelming. To give you an idea, one of the first things that we do as a Muslim is you get up and you pray first thing in the morning. I would never remember to do that at first. I had to leave bits of paper. I remember putting bits of paper to the side of my bed. And just to show you how messed up I was, or how messed up I was at that stage, I would have my ashtray would be next to, I'd fall asleep, I'd have my ashtray, my cigarettes, and whatever else might have been in there. And then I'd have a piece of paper saying, remember Allah. Because if I didn't look at that piece of paper, I wouldn't remember Allah in the morning. I'd just go off and I'd forget to pray. I'd been living a lifestyle for many, many years that had I didn't believe in Allah, I didn't believe in God, I didn't believe in anything. So this reversing and adopting new habits, like anything, takes time. And maybe somebody who hasn't been on that journey might not know that, but it takes time. Any behavioral change takes time, especially one as monumental as believing that you have a purpose in this life and that your purpose is to live in a way that's pleasing to your Lord and to submit your will to whatever it is that your Lord wants you to do. That's a massive difference from somebody that was walking about thinking that he had no purpose except to have fun, make money, and then die. So after a while, I was with the Nation of Islam, and then I moved from the Nation of Islam to a group called the Nubian Hebrews, which might be quite a surprise to many people, which was a very similar movement. Then fortunately, after about 3 months into my 3 or 4 months of being a Muslim, I met somebody who pulled me to the side and he said, "Why do you have a book in your hand called Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad?" And I said to him, "Because it's Islam, this is Muhammad." I had actually thought that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, I did not know that he was any different to this person called Elijah Muhammad. Yes, ignorant, say what you like, but I walked into every bookshop that I could find in London and asked them, "Do you have any books on Muhammad? Do you have any books on Islam?" And I found nothing. Months of me doing that, nothing. So when somebody came along and said, "Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad," I thought, okay, this must be the Prophet Muhammad and this must be the religion of Islam. Anyway, I realized that was not Islam. And alhamdulillah, I started to understand and learn a bit about what Islam was. And from about the 3-month mark, that's when I started to get quite serious about my religion. I started going to the mosque more often, to the point that at that point my parents I hadn't told my parents anything. And at that point, my mum and dad were starting to question what was going on. I remember my mum saying to me, "What's happening? You know, where are all the girls? Why are the girls not calling your house anymore?" My mum actually thought, this shows you the dramatic transformation that took place in a short period of time. My mum, she's going to see this, but Mum, you know that you said it to me. My mum said to me, "Have you become a homosexual?" And I said, "Mom, what are you talking about?" And I'm not talking about that issue. I was just so surprised and overwhelmed and taken aback. What are you talking about? She said there were girls calling your house all of the time. There's this, which you name them, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. I won't name them in case they're watching this, but you know who you are. And all of a sudden, they're not calling you anymore. What's going on? Now, I was too scared to tell her, "Mum, I've become a Muslim." So I didn't say anything. I said, "No, Mum, just, I don't know." But there was no explanation for it. There was nothing that I could say. So anyway, after about 4 or 5 months, I had been reading a little bit about Islam, and I knew that I wanted to start to grow my beard. That was one of the things that I read, that one of the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to the men, was that they should grow their beard and trim their moustache. So I thought, all right, I've embraced it. I've embraced this religion. I didn't embrace it for no reason. I'll do that. I'll start doing it. Now, I knew when I started doing that, there'd be no hiding from my mum and dad, and that they would definitely know something was up. So after 6 months, I remember just before that actually, I remember talking to this is the problem with ignorance. I remember talking to somebody in the mosque at about the 5-month mark, and you might have seen people wearing the Islamic hats, we call them like a kufi or something. It's a small Islamic hat, and I always liked them. I liked them from before I was a Muslim, the style. I just loved this kind of knitted kind of hat that, cap that went on. I loved it. And I wanted to wear one. I remember I was about 4 months Muslim, after about 4 months of being a Muslim, just after I started to get a little bit more serious, a bit more into what I was doing, and I understood that, Nation of Islam was not Islam. At that point there, I remember saying to somebody, when I saw one of these caps being sold in Regent's Park Mosque, I said to somebody, can I wear one? Because I wasn't sure. Is it a uniform? Only certain people can wear them. So I said, "Can I wear one of those? Can I get a kufi?" He said to me, No, brother. This Egyptian guy said, No, brother, no. This is not for you. This is when you have got more knowledge. This is when you have, learned some Quran. You don't know any Quran. I didn't. I knew even the first chapter of the Quran, I really didn't know well. I was just about praying, but not able to recite everything you're meant to recite. I was just, I remember I would have what you had to say stuck with sellotape on my door, and in the transliteration. So I try and read what it was saying, and then I give up and just, it's not easy. The journey of being a new Muslim, especially 28 years ago, it was rough. It was very rough. And remember, I was 18 years old. And so anyway, I remember saying to him, "Can I wear one of these hats? I really like them." And him saying to me, No, you have to learn a lot of Arabic first. And he told me all these things I had to do. Then somebody else came to me and he said to me, "No, don't listen to him. As long as you can recite," I don't know where he got this from. He said, "As long as you can recite a few verses of the Quran, a few chapters of the Quran, then you can wear it." So I was like, all right, I have no idea who's right here, but I definitely like your opinion more. I'm going with that. So I learned a few small chapters of the Quran, and I went back and I bought a few of those hats. I bought different color ones, gray ones, blue ones. I loved them. They're really nice. So I then was under the impression that because I'd memorized a few surahs of the Quran, I had to wear this hat. It was like, okay, kind of like an obligation, just like growing the beard. So I remember after about 6 months, my beard was growing, and I just knew tonight's the night. I've got to tell them. So I remember, and they'll never forget it, I'm sure, and I'll never forget it, I know. I came downstairs and I said, Mum, Dad, they were watching television. I remember it like it was yesterday, and I said, Mum, Dad, I've got something to tell you. And they both looked at me because that couldn't, it's probably not going to be good news. They know it's not going to be good news. So I said, Mum, Dad, I've got something to tell you. And they said, okay, what? I said, Mum, Dad, I've become a Muslim. And I remember as soon as I said it, my dad burst out laughing. My dad thought that I was joking. So he burst out laughing. My mum, I think straight away, all the pieces, the jigsaw puzzle went together. It made sense. That's his new lifestyle. That's why people haven't been calling the house. That's why he's not doing this. That's why. She started crying straight away. Straight away. She said to me, is there anything we're going to see? Is there anything different that we're going to see about your appearance? I said, yeah, there's 2 things. I said, I'll be back in a minute. I went back upstairs. I got my hat. Put my hat on in the mirror. I remember okay, here we go. Got to show the hat and the beard. I went downstairs, completely ignorant. I went downstairs. I said, I had the hat in my pocket actually. I remember I pulled it out. I said, Mum, I'm going to be wearing this hat from now on, and I'm going to be growing my beard. And she started crying even more. She started crying even more. My dad was just in shock. Didn't have a conversation with him. I didn't have a conversation with my mum. That was it. I tried to tell her, nothing's going to change, Mum. She said, nothing's going to change. You're already telling me you're going to be wearing a hat and growing your beard. And, that was that. That was the first 6 months.